Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Research Roadshow and Protecting the Nest. Good morning, Carol.
Hi, John. Nice to see you all freshly washed in this morning.
Yeah, it helps us every once in a while. We said a few months ago when Tyrone first came into the studio, we said, Tyrone, we really want to clean up Michigan. So, so Tyrone brought up a whole bunch of soaps from Louisiana, and
Oh, I love that. We need to get Tyrone back on the show. Where's Tyrone?
yeah, we need to we got to get a new series called "Where's Tyrone." Well, apparently, Wes ran into him a few days ago and had lunch with him.
Yay.
He's
Well,
somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, I believe, right? Or
Right,
Philadelphia. One of
right,
those places that starts with a P, like
and it's very
Pennsylvania.
cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've been thinking about a few things. And one is something that we've talked a lot about with George, and that Julian Assange said as well, that the goal is an endless war, not a successful war. And I think we're kind of getting a little hint to that. And going into the next year, there's a lot that we've uncovered now, and I think we're ready to bust this thing wide open. So it's very exciting. It's a real pivot point where I think there's um, enough of the deception is revealing itself. We just need to get it out there a little bit more and keep plugging away. But
That's
I
it.
think after I think Ronnie Reagan also said, you know, if only we could find a common enemy that would unite everybody, and that's what this bio war has done, or it's attempted to do. But sadly, it's backfiring badly because it's really hurting people, which was the intent. But people are realizing that this is not a good thing. We're greatly relieved when we thought that it was lifting, and now we see, as George is pointing out once again, so clearly, that the live exercise is starting at the same time it did in 2020 in the fall. Here it is playing out in China. We're getting all the fear mongering is starting over again for a new version.
Yeah, the
And all
exercise began 3 years almost to the day after
Mhm.
the exercise in October of 2019.
And 3 years to the day, we've not had the emergency measures lifted. The emergency youth authorization has been in place, and there's no way to take it off. There's no criteria to take it off. So it's beginning to dawn on all of us that this may be the endless war. And we don't want an endless bio war against humanity. None
No,
of
we
us
certainly
do.
don't.
And there's this amazing woman, Sasha Latapova. I don't know exactly how you pronounce her name, but um, she has figured out something that's really, really important, and that is kind of how the laws have actually been broken. First of all, how the laws were gotten around, and then the ones that really were ignored that we can no longer ignore. So, I think I'm going to show a slide from her recent slideshow, and maybe we should put that link in the notes too, so people can see
I
the whole
will.
thing. Yeah,
I'll put it there in the chat while you're talking to it.
yeah. Let's look at the first one, which is the intent to harm is clearly shown now, and she's got lots and lots of background to what do we call it? The receipts on all of these points. So the mechanisms of injury are designed into the injections. We know that the spike is the mechanism of injury in the vaccine, and that's what they're putting, or in the virus, and that's exactly what they're used to put into the vaccine that we were told doesn't. It's just going to go into the arm and it's going to create the antibodies. That was what the CDC said originally, and then they said, "Oh nope, I guess it's going to spread all over the place." And we know that it sneaks into the cells, it's mRNA, divides, and then it breaks out of the cells and replicates and goes all over. And now this has been shown. So there's a big death and injury toll. That is, we have this VAERS system. It was designed to show, when something went wrong so we could right the wrong. But for some reason, and she's figured this out, why is nobody paying attention to it? And why is it okay that the CDC can ignore it and the FDA?
Right. And why aren't people in the streets yelling about this?
I don't think this Amber, I think needs, she's calling me. Did she get the link?
I'll send it again if she didn't.
Okay. Hopefully she'll get that. I didn't want to just take the phone call, but maybe we can get her in. Okay, so there's no efficacy too. That's been proven that within 3 months, it actually does more harm than good by the statistics that we have been able to figure out. We haven't been getting very many good statistics, but some countries are better at doing that than the US. And the manufacturing stuff is really what she's figured out, that, for some reason, and now we know why, as we get into this a little bit, that there's no compliance with the general manufacturing. If this was really a medical product or a medical anything, it would have to follow, be tested, and go through some processes that for some reason it hasn't. And that there's all this cover up, and especially by the agencies that we thought were watchdog agencies. They keep repeating these things that we know aren't true. And why is this happening? This is a huge confusion to people who are looking at the actual science and the actual statistics. So what she shows, and you can go to the next slide. I'll see if I can figure out what Amber's saying.
Well, I just sent her 30 seconds ago the link, so she should be in now.
All right, I'll let her know.
Yeah, and this is very surprising. The slides that Sasha was pulling up were eye-popping. Yeah,
this was one, and she's a consultant to the vaccine industry, and I don't know exactly what the role is, but she has her whole life at being in these meetings. And this meeting, back it up a little bit, because I want to look at that upper left-hand side, upper left-hand corner that you just, a little teeny bit more. Yeah, the VBPAC. Yeah, and I'm not sure what that means. It's vaccine something or other. This is the big committee.
Review board.
She was in this meeting and found out that instead of the Health and Human Services being in charge of this whole epidemic, which normally that would be what is the case, but no, it's the National Security Council and the Department of Defense and BARDA, which is the Bioweapons Advanced Research. What's the D for? Anyway, they are part of Health and Human Services, I think, but the other ones are not. So the people that are on charge are the Chief Operating Officer is the Department of Defense, And underneath that is science and health and human services. They're down the chain of command. So we're using this idea of it's a demonstration and a countermeasure. It's not, it doesn't have to be tested because it's just a demonstration, but it's a large scale demonstration. So go to the next one, the next slide. And I think this shows that by moving through the, our warp speed, that when it switched over to warp speed, it didn't have to meet any of the criteria of being a medical anything. It became a countermeasure, which was in the defense. And the large scale manufacturing happened in parallel with the clinical trials, only the clinical trials didn't have to prove anything. All liability for anything was off the table once it became a countermeasure. And this, in what she realized, is this part in yellow here, that this is a violation of the laws, that it's not possible to manufacture safe products if the safety tests aren't even in there. It's impossible. And so, but our laws don't really exempt this product from being fully tested to be deployed to everybody. And that the FDA and the CDC, who keep saying it's safe and effective when it hasn't even been tested, that is a violation. And it shows that they're not really. Hi, Amber. Nice to see you here. I'm going through a little bit of the Sasha stuff. Just we can't hear you though. You're off.
Nice. Yeah,
okay.
I turned it off because the blowers for once are going in my neighborhood. We're usually the ones blowing. But
blowing leaves or snow?
Well,
you didn't get snow, right?
No. We have a wonderful lady. She's raised like 4 kids. She's in her 80s, and every Christmas, every holiday, all her kids come and they pressure wash her house. They blow everything. They like do this big old once over. So she's getting her 2 or 3 times a year big to do. So I'll have it on mute and then just jump in and try to talk over the stuff.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, we're going through the last slide that we were going to show. So let's go back to that last slide, which kind of showed what warp speed did. That warp speed moved it through all this quick manufacturing as if it was a demo, as if it was something that you would test on a battlefield. And it did, and you had to get it out there really quickly because the enemies have already deployed a bio agent that you don't really know what it is. So you can move really quickly through it. That's why a demo, but it's supposed to be small, and it got moved to large scale manufacturing. So what this did all of a sudden is the EUA has no stopping condition. I don't know if there ever was one. We've never been in such a situation before where the emergency use authorization doesn't have a time frame. It doesn't have reasons to ever stop it. And I think that goes back to what Julian Assange said, that the goal is the endless war, not a successful war. And we have the war people in charge here, and their goal is to keep it going. So all the products, which aren't medical products because they're demos, are exempt from the laws. Experimental drugs, devices, biologic on human beings. They're exempt from the laws regulating the physician's use of approved drugs. It doesn't matter because it's an emergency. There's no manufacturers of experimental products because this is not an experimental product. It is a countermeasure. So therefore, you don't have to go through the clinical investigation for it. There's no government or private contracts for purchase of this. but the only or there's no government private contracts for an experimental product. There's only contracts for the large scale vaccine manufacturing demos, and that means that the nurses and pharmacists aren't administering an experimental product. Nothing is experimental. This is just a demo. So it really goes back to the live exercise again, is we're still in a live exercise. And it goes on and on. There's nobody responsible for the well-being of the recipients. There's no treatment group, no control group. The human beings administering the EUA have no informed consent obligations about ingredients, risks, benefits, alternatives, and the people who accept it don't have an option to refuse it, actually. So we're waiving informed consent for unapproved products because it's not an unapproved product, it's a demo. So this is just a squirrely way of getting around all of our laws. So that, anyway, she goes on and on. There's many, many points about this. And and really how the FDA and the CDC, their role has been changed. So they're not regulatory agencies anymore. They become mouthpieces to get people to take this.
Well, let me throw in my 2 cents.
Really, yeah.
Having, I spent most of my professional career working on military programs, and each program had a long-term objective. This is back in the Cold War, during the Cold War, or just after the fall of the Berlin Wall. So having this vision of an enemy that's building up their arsenal on the other side, we had to have a 25, 30, 35-year prospectus of what the enemy's capabilities were going to be. And then we planned our fleet of aircraft and naval ships in order to meet the perceived threat that would appear 20 or 30 years down the road. Now, if you go back to 2005, about the time that Senator Obama, and it wasn't just the Democrats, okay, Sasha points that out. There is an attitude throughout the Eastern establishment, and in particularly in Washington, that they had to take this long-term approach towards disease, towards a future threat. In fact, the first international conference against disease X happens in 2007. So it's a very, and another thing is it should have been a state by state. If this is just a regular disease like polio or influenza A or influenza B, then it would have been a state by state approach. Each state would have taken its good old time and methods and applied its own resources as it saw fit to meet the perceived threat of influenza A. But this, you can see it, they're gearing up in 2005 for a massive onslaught of some known enemy. They already know the enemy that they're going to face, and they're building towards it. I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah, it's known because they built it.
Right.
So I'll throw in my 2 cents, and it's only worth that. So, if I were going to try to be in control, my main objective would always be to understand fully the cause and effect. So I would want to know, with each move I made, what agencies, what behaviors, what citizens would want, what commercials to put out. I would lay it all out, and there would only need to be a few of us, because entities serve purposes. So the military's purpose is to follow orders, and if they think there's bioweapon war, they're going to act accordingly due to what is stated they should do. If intelligence agencies are told, if this happens, then this is your stated purpose. Your stated purpose is not to allow nonsense to get out. These would be changes that would be made ahead of time. So everyone that was marching and doing what they were told would have already been told this way before this event. Not only that, it would have already been put into place on smaller levels, like if there was a killing of somebody who was on a lot of drugs, who had a bad criminal behavior. How would you set it up where everyone felt sorry for the criminal, didn't look at the behavior? Yes, how the person got killed by the authorities may have been questionable, right? But when the protocols are in and everybody's mind is led a particular way, it ends up falling the way that you want. And where it skews a bit, you can make minor adjustments. It's like when Fauci knew that if he said out loud in front of all of the press that the Black community is especially hit by the pandemic, that Trump had been called racist multiple times. So his reaction would be, yes. And he would regurgitate it. He would reiterate it. And he would want to be the one out in front of it. And all you've got to do is say and do things to set up reactions and actions that make that domino effect. So what I like about what Sasha did, and what I like about what Carol and John are so wisely talking about today, she's laying out the effect. And she even, when Carol's discussing it and laying it out, she's showing what cause and effect looks like after the fact, and is even mentioning how, each entity ended up doing what they were doing without castigating each entity as if they were the ultimate evil. Because it only takes a handful of people to predetermine, like to say 4 years beforehand, antibiotics, we're using them too much, we're pulling back. And then at the same time, sell our antibiotic manufacturing overseas. And at the same time, have our PPE made overseas. And at the same time, have someone like Rick Bright not refill our PPE a year before the pandemic happens. And then when he gets fired, have it laid out where he's the ultimate victim from a bullheaded meanie who just wasn't giving everyone funding. And this is what happens when you don't fund us correctly, when it was already set up that way, but you never let a good crisis go to waste. So it just takes people who are really good at poker with your poker face, chess with strategy, and being intellectual when it comes to street smarts and sociology. And they knew that if they didn't have any remedy, like there was no medicine, yes, the patents, yes, they would make money, but really, if they just told people to go home and there was nothing they could do, they couldn't take Advil, they couldn't take Theraflu, they couldn't do vitamins, everyone would beg for a vaccine. And that was the purpose.
Well, that's a really interesting point you're making, Amber, because I think one of the things that's kind of out now in the sphere, the atmosphere, is what happened in certain countries in Africa that didn't go for it, that already had hydrochloroquine and ivermectin on the shelves, because they were used to malaria, and malaria has some similar things to what's going on here. So they didn't do it, and they have the lowest rates, 0 of COVID. Their economy hasn't been wrecked, so it's some of these little countries like Vanuatu and Uganda that have really great results. And at the beginning, I remember the projections was the fear, that we're going to have 35% death rate of anybody exposed to this cold virus. And and that Africa and the third world countries would be hit the hardest because they don't have enough money for vaccines, but they actually don't have the excessive death rates that we do because the vaccine is not a good one. For whatever reason, we can't totally determine that, but it's not a good one, and more people are being harmed than helped by it. And that's very clear now after you really look at statistics.
And they've been hurt before.
Yeah.
So they dealt with, someone like Gates, really talking about them on 1,000 different levels as if they're not there. Like he has to speak for the whole country.
Right. They're getting suspicious finally.
I think a bigger thing is I am tribal in a way because it's human. However, I'm very interested in all kinds of people. Therefore, all my inhibitions go away and my fear when I go into a different culture or new group of people. And I can actually step in their shoes and understand, like, what would be my issue? And I think a lot of times when something's different, people assume different means stupid or different means doesn't understand. And one thing I do know about the many Africans who have come to Atlanta because they look at it as the civil rights capital of the world. It's a Black-run city. They are very excited to be here. They do have conflict with our local American Black community because it's a cultural difference. They come from different paths. They hash that out. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. There's a lot of literature on it. There's lots of talking heads that talk about it. One thing I know is that there's a tendency to assume that someone who doesn't look like you just doesn't understand, where people don't like to be talked down to, and they don't like for you to try to mimic them or talk just like them. They want you to be you, and they want you to treat them like they are them, and literally just talk to them as a human, have a conversation, and put them on equal playing field. So if you have individuals talking for Africa and then talking for one of the head people there, talking to him and bringing in a bunch of people to convince him, and they're smart scientists, then, you're diminishing their intelligence. You're diminishing their independence, their intellectual properties, just who they are as people. And I feel like that was their first resistance, because all you actually saw was a bunch of rules, a bunch of people, and some of the same people saying, we declare this for everybody. And they didn't get a say. And when they know that there's medicines that they're already noticing, these are scientists. Like, this is their country. They're already doing tests. They're already watching their individuals that'll come down with it and how they helped it. No one's asking them, how are you fixing this? How are you fixing it? They're literally just saying, you don't know what you're doing. This is what you have to do. And that'll make anybody go, halt, especially if they've actually addressed it and they found that medications they already have were actually working. Right.
Well, the global response was based on algorithms, all these projections that were, all these people are going to die because the computer models are telling us that. So our reaction is going to be based on what the computer models tell us. And it was all wrong. 35% of the people didn't die, 0.02% or whatever it is, less than a very small amount in this country and smaller amounts in Africa died. And right now, the new live exercise in China has 500,000 people have died, is what we're here. But when you look at the death rate, it's 0.0002. It's a very teeny amount. And to make these great big decisions, like we did originally when Snohomish County man died, then okay, we have to all be in a lockdown because 2 people died. We're in a similar thing because China has a lot more people than we do.
Imagine being talked at instead of talked to, being told instead of sitting down at the table as an honest broker. So wouldn't you sit down unless it was already planned, right? And that's the issue. Is that naturally, and that's where intelligence comes from, the natural response to something that you would naturally observe if something happened naturally.
Yeah, you say, wait, let's solve the problem.
Correct. So you would go to this country and say, we need your statistics. We need to know what's going on. We got to sit down with you. What have you found? We need your statistics. And that's a natural conglomeration that comes together that discusses what's happening, because environmentally we're different. Culturally we're different. We eat different. We sleep at different times. We are in different kind of quarters. Some are very tight, like Japan, where it's a very small area, but everything's built up very tightly. Very small spaces, like China, like some of the European nations and some cities in America. That's going to be different than a spread out area in South America or a spread out area in Africa. You're going to be looking at how this happens, and you're going to need to sit down, and then you're going to be offering people to boost their immunity. You're going to be talking about the things you found in other countries that help. There's going to be options because it's natural. And I think that's the issue. Is that
because
all
the co-op.
Well, we're treated like we should understand that it doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel right. It's very manufactured, but we're supposed to be dumb enough to say, this is totally natural behavior. We're not all being put under one label, told one thing as if it was planned out, packaged, marked, stamped, and set off. This is totally normal when it's not. When we ourselves each day deal with something and we deal with it naturally. The bus doesn't come for the kids. You got to naturally deal with the situation. There's not a stamped project that no matter what, this is how we do it. So when something is so adverse to it and it flies in your face of like, this isn't normal. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, then when people try to make you feel stupid and then they have to censor you, they've already failed. They've already dumbed you down. They've already purposely left you out of the loop. And that's why there's the rebellion. That's why there's people saying, I don't like this. This is why you don't have people running it, because they've been slighted and they've been shorted the respect that's due. But they knew people would live in fear.
It's anti-science not to allow anybody to question anything. Science is based on questioning and trying to knock things down. And when that's not allowed, there's lots of doctors and scientists that are saying, whoa, wait a minute here. Things are going off and we're not being allowed to self-correct. Because that's what we do. That's our job.
Going back to Amber's point, in Madhya Pradesh, the poorest region of India, even though they're poor, they still have some very good scientists. And so at the very beginning of COVID, in January of 2020, some Americans from the CDC arrived in Madhya Pradesh saying, we're here to help you. And these guys, the officials, the health authorities in Madhya Pradesh are like, we never invited you. Why are you here? Because you're going to need our help with this new disease. And they're like, what do you mean? Well, you have to trust us because we have very big computers back in America and we know more than you do about this coming disease.
And we love your people more than you love your people. And we love your country more than you love your country. It's demeaning. And it's very anti working together. And I think that's really the issue is there's a disrespect with an underlying passive aggressive, why don't you trust me? Like,
well, the other thing to look at
do that to people.
In that example, John, was that the outcome was so much better. And that district in India, it has as many people in it as 2/3 of the population of the US, just in that one district. And they had a much better outcome when they used, ivermectin and hydrochloroquine and whatever else, probably, turmeric and, traditional stuff too. Turmeric is amazing anti-inflammatory, and that's the biggest problem is inflammation. So, just their indigenous medicine is going to help a ton.
Right.
That, and I think for just regular people like me, I would assume that scientists know more about the immune system than me. I don't sit around all day in a lab watching how natural immunity works on certain things. I don't have, I'm not looking through microfiche of different articles written over a long period of time and then going into the lab and, doing all these tests. So I was disappointed when they weren't giving people the basics when they said go home. Like, you were going to want to take a lot of vitamin C. It's just good for you. You're going to want to get some good sleep.
We've always heard that.
Right. And the fact that they just said do nothing, there's nothing we can do, was not an honest broker.
Well, they actually
There's
said
no honesty in that.
don't take vitamin D, don't take vitamin C. They
There were
actually
doctors
said
saying
that. Yeah, which is completely crazy because we knew it was a coronavirus. We've lived with those. I
But
didn't
also-
realize only since 1967.
But also, if you go back to the actual articles, like, people were posting all over social media that Spanish flu, this was the last pandemic. All you had to do was pull up a few articles. In multiple articles, it said people started to feel better when they took them out of the tents and laid them in the sun to
Right.
get better. I mean, it wasn't in one article. It wasn't in two articles. It was in multiple articles. It was in multiple pictures. So even if you typed in Spanish flu and you pulled up the pictures and you spread them out, you would see people outside of a tent laying, and then a little thing that said they found people would heal better if they were outside in the open air with sun.
And hospitals were built like that. Hospitals
Doctors were saying no vitamin D. That's the kind of
Yeah.
stuff that makes you go, I don't trust you anymore. I'm sorry. Listen to my syllables. Like, this is, you want to talk to them like they're babies. Like, why don't you understand why we are upset with you?
Well, there was even an early study back in like later in the spring in 2020 in Indonesia, where tons, hundreds of thousands of people were tested in the hospital. Their bloods were tested for all the vitamin levels and everything. And they found out that the people that had more than normal vitamin D levels in their blood when they went into the hospital, those were the people that came out and were okay. And the people that had low levels were the people that died. And it was so clear. And that was early on distributed. People saw that. We all knew it. It was crazy not to pay attention.
Hi, Tara.
Hi, Tara.
Hi.
It's beautiful there today. Look how beautiful
it is. It's so amazing. If Dave was home from work, I would be probably not showing up at all because I would ask him to go for a bike ride. But
what's the temperature?
Like definitely the 50s, maybe even. It feels like 60.
Nice.
But it's probably, I'm acclimated to colder, so it may be just. I'll check.
Or something?
Yeah, I meant it's kind of amazing. It feels like spring, actually. And now that the
getting your vitamin D.
I'm getting my vitamin D. And yeah, what you guys were just saying when I jumped in here, that's part of keeping people stupid, and no offense. It's not even to say people are stupid. It's to say that the model that they're using is to promote like the dumbing down stuff, because like smart people, like people with that's why we talk about it as a a spell, because people who ordinarily would think very clearly, we talked about a few weeks ago about just sending out those triggers that, like, boom, they step on this one thing, it flings them to this other arena, and it's just like we see the contraption and then they just are flung out into space. But just to like wind it back a little bit, and we are in the winter season now, beautifully as it is here today. So I wanted to, this is probably, could be redundant because we talk about a lot of this stuff on the channel all the time, but just to put it in a list form, going into the winter to have in your medicine cabinet. Okay, so I'm going to tell you my favorites, and I don't work for any of these people. One of the top.
Grab a pen while you're doing that.
Okay.
I'll remember. Just.
Okay, that's all right. I can pause because another direction while she's getting the pen, I'll just say is we're doing, we talk about language, we talk about reversing the magic, you know, so there's always the opportunity to, not always, but often an opportunity to flip things, you know. So it's like if they want us to be dumber, that's going to make us smarter, you know. It's a Streisand effect here.
I'm ready.
Okay, so the first thing that I usually always try to keep is oregano or some kind of form of, oregano is like one of the brands, so it doesn't have to be oregano, but high dose, like Mediterranean oregano, which it
Like
can
the
be like,
oil? Like
yeah,
the
you can
oil?
get it in the dropper and just like add a little bit to your drink, and then you do like, you know, a little juice shot, tastes just like a spicy pizza. And or if you don't like that on your tongue, you can get it in like the little tablets, and seeing how it's an oil, it's like similar to the fish oil where it's just
Would
easy
it
to
be good in
digest.
tomato juice?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
Like
yeah.
it's
that would be
I,
like a
delicious.
tiny pizza.
Yeah, it
yeah.
really tastes like oregano, but it isn't actually oregano. It's oreganol is a
Oh, okay.
version of a specific version that has this really incredible antibacterial property and
Do I
Right.
get it on
antiviral and
Amazon?
antifungal. It's one of those oils that's really great.
Do you get it on
Exactly.
Amazon or a health food store?
Either one, and that's why I mentioned that, like what Carol is saying is that it's a particular like, I don't know how you would say it, essence or formulation, but there's other brands besides the ones that pinned the oregano on it that you can still get like the wild crafted Mediterranean, like, so you just have to read the description. But I like to get it in liquid form because I like to taste that little, I like my tongue to kind of be involved
Well,
with whatever.
it would be good with tomato juice when you said it.
Yeah,
Delicious.
and
I could make it
garlic.
like a virgin Bloody Mary and just
Yep.
put
Mhm.
olives, celery, pickles, the
And
olive oregano.
and you might even want to like do the little shot glass with a little bit and then have that drink to follow, because you can keep like just 2 droppers of this stuff. That's why the concentrate is a good one to get. It
Okay.
just sits in the drink and it's so strong that after you take that shot, you can keep on pouring your drink into the little shot glass and get more like super flavors. I mean, it could tingle your lips a little bit, but it's not like such, not like citrus does.
It sounds
Like,
delicious.
yeah.
I've had the oil, but I didn't mix it with anything. So I would have to do that and then
Oh yeah,
hurry up and
no.
shoot
Ugh.
vitamin C tablets to get the taste out.
That's too strong. That's too strong. But we want to enjoy it a little bit. Spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. But like Carol was saying, it, you can really have it for like an antiviral, an antibacterial, an antifungal. You know, it's just if you
If you have
sometimes
an infection, yeah, just take a couple. I take it in the capsules, the oil capsules, a
yeah,
couple of those. You know, maybe when I had shingles after people started taking the shots, that was one of the things I used. It just went away with the Sambucol too. It was like it's just not there. And when my grandson had the skin infection that was going crazy, that was the main thing that just really helped out, along with the clay, to reverse it. It's really potent and powerful.
it is. And it's funny because like say you have something else that you usually use for any of those other things, just specifically, if you have this in the cabinet, then if you don't have any of those other things, it's a really good backup, you know,
Yeah.
or to add to other things that you do have. But like if you do get in the concentrate, a little goes a long way. But there's a range of brands you can get, and it's all really good. And so one of the things that, so the ABC vitamins, you know, are something that we always want to remind ourselves and each other about, because, you know, if something comes along and we're getting attacked by a virus, it's not just about fighting the virus, but it's about being strong. So we want to really build up our system and make sure that all of our ABC D vitamins, like, you know, the whole alphabet are intact. And so obviously sitting in the sun and stuff like that. But so vitamin A is something that my friend who's a naturopath for cold sores, she told me that as long as you're not pregnant or trying to get pregnant, you can take vitamin A like around the clock to quickly combat a cold sore coming on. But at the same time, you can use your oregano if you don't have that, or vitamin C. Vitamin C is another one that you can take in really high doses around the clock, almost the way that you would like an antibiotic if you feel something coming on, because you'll just pee out any extra, it's not
Yeah,
like
it's more than just pee. I think if you go to bowel tolerance, things get really loose, and that means you're getting a good dose. You don't really know if you're there until that happens. So that's
okay.
how they test it. There it is. Great.
This is
oil of oregano.
Max.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that's the wild that you talked about, I think.
Yep.
And then just the regular oil of oregano.
Exactly.
I'm gonna take it today because I haven't taken it in like a couple months because I wasn't even thinking of it. Thank you for the reminder.
Well, that's why to, have a conversation about it with yourself or someone that that is getting sick, or just like a winter reminder, because there's a lot of things we're trying to remember all at once, and we just
I'm gonna get the tinctures because I want the tomato. I think that'll be
Yep.
delicious.
Yeah.
Even though we have these, I want the tinctures too.
It is
Exactly.
delicious.
I love
Make it
doing
fun.
that.
Well, I'll
I
give
wanna
a
make
plug
it
for
fun
my
to take the
favorite.
vitamin.
This Sambicol is for your killer T cells, and it's a precursor for really getting up those. And yeah, drinking it is really great too, because I think you get more that way. But this goes right on your throat. If you get a little sore throat, you just put the lozenge right where whichever side it's on, and it's just incredible.
Carol, I'm looking. So I want what you were just talking about, Sambicol. This is a zinc I can get my kids to take because it melts under their tongue, and it's a blueberry blast. So
blueberries are great stuff too.
That they'll take it because they have a hard time swallowing. But I wanted that for them for Sambicol because they just want this to drink because it's delicious.
Well, that's what this one is. This one is just the original lozenge, and it tastes like a Smartie, one of those.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it tastes really good, but not everybody likes it. For some people, it tastes icky and it doesn't work as well. So it does have to do with your, just your immune system or your genetics or something, whether it works as well. It's my magic.
I haven't had that one. I just had the cough drops that are the Sambicol with zinc. So I bet my kids would like that.
Yeah, there is one of those with zinc, but it has that icky zinc taste to it. So I don't recommend that. I have a problem with zinc. That was one of the things I got really allergic to when I got allergic to everything. So I kind of avoid it, even though I know you need some, but I just try to get it in food and not try to get it concentrated.
So far, Tara, you've said oregano oil or oregano, concentrate, vitamin A.
But all the ABC vitamins are good to take, but the vitamin C you can take sort of around the clock to really combat something without, feeling like you're going to OD on or something. And similarly with the vitamin A, but like I said, with more control with the fertility type stuff, because that can cause problems. And so obviously vitamin D too. And so speaking of zinc is, if you get it out of in your food, then obviously that's, enough if depending on the person. But and it probably is like a blood type thing too, because I tend to distribute vitamins to like my family members instead of just like trusting that they're going to take it. I'm like, here, and try different stuff. And so actually and like some of them like the sweet tart type thing, and some of them are like, no, I can't have that. So we call it jinx because of a little person here that said, I took my jinx. and
It's
so
very cute.
Yeah. So
I love little language. They're little
language.
Oh goodness.
But there's so many combinations of what you guys were just talking about, of the elderberry, the zinc, and the vitamin C. And so I've been trying to actually experiment with different ones. Some are syrups, some are gummies, some are lozenge, and you can get something in pill form, the same thing, if somebody doesn't like taking it. So lots of brands to experiment with. and just it depends on the person. Like if it's a little kid or something, they're probably going to like the gummies. But if it's an adult, and maybe you could get higher dose with something else, you know, just depends on the person. So I think that's a key thing right now, because a lot of the products are combining those, and even sometimes putting a vitamin D in there. I was really annoyed because the brand that I thought was so potent and so good, and it was a nice big gigantic bottle, discontinued that, and it was like
Oh.
Doublewood or something, but which I still like that brand, but so that's why I'm trying to find something comparable. The other thing that I really try to, I think we talked about this before, but there's a brand called Byron, like Bioron, and it's like homeopathic. There's one, my favorite one that really works really well, so you can actually find it in most grocery stores now because it's very popular, and it's called it's like OSCILLOCCINUM, something like that. I won't confuse you, but that's basically it. And so
Amoxicillinum?
yeah, and so it's like you can get a family pack of that, and it comes in the little things of 3, and you can just, each person that's coming down with something should take 3 of those a day, and you know we just take those. Umka is another brand that also does like the homeopathic stuff. So the homeopathic, it's hard to explain what's in them because it's like components of flowers, like, and different stuff, like broken down into like smaller components of it, you know, with some amino acids. Anyways, it's very easy to digest, and kids can take it, and it's like kind of like, so except for if you're a vegan, because a lot of them have like lactose in the little teeny tablets. So those are just good to like, if your immune system, to shorten the duration of anything, and maybe get it to not even come all the way into your body if you give it an onslaught.
UNCA?
UMKA.
Okay.
Yep. And again, I absolutely don't work for these people, but the Byron is my favorite. And the grocery stores, they have it just in with the cold and flu stuff.
I've never seen it, so maybe it's more local or regional.
Oh, you haven't? It's like a little it's a little white box with orange writing. And they have one that's called Colcom too, but that one's my that one really I feel like works really well. Okay, so let me think. Those are really important just to have, I think, throughout the winter, to just make sure that you do have, because you know the quicker you take them, the better it works. And quinine, which another thing of like, you can get it in other forms besides tonic water, and some people hate tonic water and some people love it. I absolutely love it. I think it's so tasty.
I love tonic water. I like bitter. Bitter is good. And we're both cold people, you know, so
yeah,
maybe there's something there.
maybe. So say you had something like this. I don't know if I show it. That's just like juice and water and ice, and then you top it off with a little bit of quinine, maybe like a lemon wedge or something. And then those vitamin C packs are good too. So that's my general list.
You know, quinine, I guess it comes from the bark of a quinole tree. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, but it can, but it's not the only place.
Yeah, quercetin might be close to it. And so I think that citrus peels boiled you can do something that's similar. So that's a good tip.
That reminds me, Carol. So on I think it's YouTube Shorts, there's a lady, and she grew up in the Appalachian Hills, and so they very poor, but they used what they had around them to, you know, deal with sickness. What they used to do for a cough, or when the kids, especially for kids, were coming down with something that was like lung respiratory, where they got a lot of congestion, they would take onions, put a little bit of water, boil the onion so that all that juice came out. Then they would squeeze as much as possible out of the onion. Some of them liked it warm, and then slice the onion and then drink it like an onion soup. some of them would just drink the thing, and in a couple of days, there was no congestion. That was one of the things. And so she's bringing up like different cultural things that the Appalachian people do, and it's super interesting. So I'm listening to her. She's got hundreds of videos out, and I'm just trying to see like what everybody does and what they found works. Some of them, they like to put honey with their onion, depending on if they're a child and they don't like the taste. But then back to the magnesium and zinc and all that. When I went to a health food store, because sometimes my body won't break down the one specific vitamin, but if it's blended with other vitamins, it really helps. So they kept saying for women to do the calcium, magnesium, and zinc at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So
your onion
it.
thing, Amber. I have a beloved acupuncturist that I've worked with for a lot of years, and when my grandson was young, he got ear infections, and what she said to do was take a half onion that's cut concentrically and bake the onions, or you could do two. Bake them and let them cool till they're just warm, and then you use it like a suction cup, and you press it into the ear, and the onion juice is warm, and so it creates a little local fever there. But it pretty much just clears up any earache.
You know what else onion does? When you have a boil and you don't want to go in to get it popped, or you don't want to pop it, you don't want to do it, you set that onion and you do like a suction cup, set it there, wrap it in gauze for 2 or 3 hours. When you pull it off, it literally just opens up and everything comes out. And then you can even pull out the little sac that caused the boil, and it all just does it on its own. It literally opens up your pore, and the pore just like, hello, and then everything just comes out. So just using an onion, wrapping it, like placing it on, first like pushing, making sure some of the onion juice is getting in there, and then wrapping with gauze. And in about 3 or 4 hours, you take it off, and it's really, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to put pressure. You don't cause bruising. Like there's nothing. It just literally, whatever that is.
I wonder if that would work for adolescent pimples. Probably. It's kind of the same thing, isn't it?
They just wouldn't want their friends to know.
Totally.
They would be mortified, and they'd cut you out of their life forever.
Yeah.
They'd be like, boys, I want you to put these onions on.
Yeah.
I want to jump back for a minute to the slide that Carol opened with, and one is that we're not trying. We have to make the standard YouTube disclaimer that we're not offering,
not giving any medical information. No, this is just like grandma and grandpa talking about home style cooking. We are not doctors. We have no medical ability to give anybody advice in any way. We're just talking.
But do not let your doctor, especially if you don't know this doctor for very long, bully you into taking a one-size-fits-all medicine of any type and throwing away all the knowledge that has accumulated in your family.
Lost you froze. There you go.
Exactly.
A friend of mine in Boston, she grew up in India. She spent 32 years of her life in India in a fairly rural area outside New Delhi. And here, her doctor in Boston was trying to sell her on a brand new drug that her family had no experience with. And she tried to tell him, my immune system is very different from your American immune system. That's why you Americans, when you come to India, you have to take all these drugs to just survive for the first few weeks. My immune system is different. Our family in India, in New Delhi, we have certain things that we do generation after generation.
That's like Dr. Shiva.
So don't let and above all, keep some data. Keep a textbook, a notebook with data that you can show. And this will help later when we start to go after Moderna and Pfizer and Amgen in class action lawsuits. Keep accurate notes on, your daily vital signs when you're taking a certain drug.
That's good advice.
Historiographers, we need citizen statisticians.
Definitely.
Yeah, we went ahead and we've got multiple books of this. Is just when everyone will talk about a food crisis or what happened back in the day when you had food shortages and during the Depression and lots of people perished. There was just a lot of issues, and throughout the potato blight, just all kinds of issues. People just weren't aware of the different weeds and flowers and roots and things you can eat, and that actually will help you sustain. You might not, gain weight, and you might need a little more calories, but they will sustain your life, and to know how to point those things out. And with the fact that you can eat them, and no one really knows a lot about them, like dandelion roots different than even dandelion flower. So each thing has all kinds of different purposes. People don't even know you can eat pansies. You can put the flower in your salads. They're delicious. They're just not aware of. And I don't think there's a lot of literature about what all components are in those things that we can eat. How much vitamin A, how much vitamin K alpha. We'd probably be surprised at how potent, like with macro and micronutrients, that these things actually have, and how really good they are for us, and how maybe some of those macro and micronutrients that it's hard to replace with vitamins and with the food we have today, they might be slam packed in these things that we've forgotten to nibble on in years. These are things that might help us with some of the things that we're dealing with today because of all our micronutrients. Some of us are depleted in a lot of it, and we're just not aware how much depletion is going on in just our own body and our need.
Well, I think there's something else we can do about that because, I've been studying like Corky, this linear, which is low energy nuclear reaction, and realizing that that's how life works. We all have these on the teeny scales, and our body using this can create those kinds of minerals as long as it's working well. Oh, there's a chicken. Hi, chicken. She's beautiful.
Oh, is that Rooster Man? Who's that? I can't hear you.
You're
muted.
we can't hear the chicken either.
Sorry about that. 10 ladies. We got 10 ladies here.
10 ladies.
Yeah.
Oh, they're beautiful.
They're so cute. I'll show you another one. Hold on.
Oh my goodness. Hello. Have you named any of them?
Yeah, but they keep on transforming a little bit, so I'm not. I think this is Marigold.
Hi, Marigold. Marigold.
The other ones are pecking my pants. They all came over.
Well, by eating bugs, they'll give you good omega-3s.
Yes,
They get those from bugs.
It's been amazing. It's been a transformative time, and it's so good to just like I was just giving that disclaimer, but it's true to just like sit around the table and be able to talk about stuff. Like I never really was thinking about onions as being that potent. You're always thinking about like garlic. My friend Sal, I'm going to tell him about the onion stuff because he loves that. Like he'll just eat like a ginger or a garlic or something. And when I had Lyme and I thought that it was cellulitis, I ate, when I knew it was infection, I ate a garlic clove, like a whole garlic clove. And like, I was also started on the oregano right away. So that was really probably life-saving. But when I ate the garlic clove, like I could not get away from myself. It was just so disgusting.
Well, we made French onion soup yesterday because I was reading about the properties of onions, and then when I saw the Appalachian lady, and she was talking about it, and my husband had said before Christmas, "Hey, I'm in the mood for French onion soup," and so I made a huge crock pot of it, And I've been trying to come down with something, and it's when the temperatures change, it like literally I get drainage, I feel congested, and my body tries to adjust. And so if I am lacking just a little bit of sleep, if there's just a little bit of stress, if I'm off with my eating habits, if I eat, Christmas, very, very big comfort foods, less salads, less, raw juices, things like that, I will literally, have to, and I don't get full blown sick. It's my body going, hey, you're on the way of
Mhm.
like, and so I'll start coughing and stuff. Once, like, I was coughing really bad. I was having a lot of like, oh God, I'm really gonna go downhill and be sick for a couple days. The French onion soup, within 20 minutes, I could like everything was, breathing. I could really, focus. And now it's waning. And so I knew there was medicinal properties. I'm not sure what's in onions. The broth is great, but there's something else that
Mhm.
really it stopped the downward spiral, and now I'm plateaued out. Like my body is,
Well,
adjusting.
there is great stuff in onions. I can't remember what it's called, but there definitely is. But the other thing in soup and broth and tea is infrared radiation, and that literally recharges your batteries of your mitochondria. And now and melatonin, the melatonin can get made in the mitochondria. They didn't used to realize that. But what you need is what Tara's doing right now: sunlight or warmth from inside you. It's, radiated heat is infrared radiation at 720 megahertz or whatever it is. You can't see it, you can't see the light, but it is activating all your mitochondria, recharging them up, and healing you, and making these trace minerals that we may not be getting in your food. Your body's doing that automatically. And it's just it's such an incredible tool. Our bodies are our vehicle, or whatever you want to call it. They are amazing.
Yeah, no wonder I crave peppermint tea all the time now.
Hmm.
Like, and it's got to be steaming hot. I will put a little heavy cream in it, or and I will add either oatmeal creamer. I'll add something to give it a little bit more texture. It just tastes like peppermint water, and I really want to have a bit of a taste in it. But I go from that to like tomato soup, any kind of soup, anything warm. No wonder that when I start to go, like when I start to feel tired, I don't want to chew food. I want soup. I want liquid. I want it to be warm. And it all of a sudden I didn't know that it
Hmm.
causes, what did you call it? Radiate. What is it?
Well, it's
Infrared.
infrared. Yeah, infrared radiation is just below the visible spectrum of the rainbow, and so anything that's radiant, like when you go out to the beach for the first time in the summer and you just want to lay and you just want to feel that sand is warm and it just feels so great. That's what you're getting, is you're recharging all the batteries in your cell. All the mitochondria are waking up and doing what they need to do to be, little nuclear energy rechargers
Yeah.
on every level.
So
And
does that
Every
mean,
night. Go ahead.
is that like mean like a super hot shower will do that?
yes, yes, and when you get it on your head, especially when it's if shower where you're getting the pulsed energy, it's incredibly healing. I mean, you can feel it, but now I'm understanding it in a different way as I'm
You know
learning about
what?
this
You know
stuff.
those head massagers? They look like
Hmm.
this, and you put them on, and they kind of go like this. I bet under hot water, under a
Yeah.
hot shower, doing that, it would
Well,
probably just
but you
be
can
mad.
dial the shower so it goes, and it does anyway. When it hits you, you're getting that kind of pulsed action of heat. So you're getting pulsed infrared radiation straight into your brain. Yeah.
That makes so much sense because I like showers for me, because
Mhm.
I'm cold, I take a super hot shower,
Me
and it's
too.
like I have like visions in the shower that are like I'm almost like I'm dreaming.
Well, I'm tired until I take a hot shower.
Yeah. Or a bath. I mean, however you absorb it,
And that's
whatever
another
your
thing. The doctor
preferable
Teal,
way.
the Dr. Teal's Epsom salt has a lot of magnesium in it, and they have the different mixtures. They have one, it's amazing. It's lavender and melatonin. If you take a really hot bath and you put in the magnesium Epsom salt with the lavender melatonin, I sleep so well.
Yeah, my daughter
literally
loves that.
And I've got some fresh lavender spray, and it's just it's all natural. I get it at the health food store. If you spray that inside your pillowcases and you lay down, that smell just literally.
Well, the heat itself is making melatonin. So you just by the heat, your body is making it all over. So it's in micro doses.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
I know people do hot, cold.
Yeah.
And I know when you're inflamed or when you can't breathe, if you walk outside and it's cold, your sinus is open and you can breathe. So sometimes, if my kids are like, I can't breathe and they're stressed out and they're sick, I'll say, here, put your head in the freezer for a minute and then they can breathe. Let's walk outside. And then that air, that cold air, where everything's swollen because it's really warm and they've got a fever, it literally, it really retracts and then they're able to breathe. And then when they do that, we can do a neti pot. We can do these other things where it's less stress. They're more open. They're not dealing with, because it stresses them out if they can't breathe through their nose. They will freak out. The minute they can breathe through their nose, they can really handle their fever and handle their uncomfortableness.
Well, Dave makes amazing soups, and I'm like, we accent each other really well, but when it comes to me, I'm more like that Jetson style meal that I'm like, here's your meal in the form of 3 chewables. But there was a brand I wanted to add to the list that not add to the list, but say something, comment on it, that the zinc and the quinine Q, however you get Q, can be preventative. So if you're like even around people or going out, that could be good stuff to have in your system. But a lot of these chewable, yummy things do kind of like the same thing. There was a brand that I just tried. I wish the bottle was bigger, but it was like Xana or something, and it was like 3 big elderberry, zinc, and vitamin C tablets. They just said chew 3 all at once every 24 hours, something like that. So it said even if you're going to be around possible germs 2 hours before that, something like that.
Yeah, we try to do neti pots or like clean out our sinuses, clean out our mouth with strong mouthwash, lysine in our eyes, anything to kind of clear out everything when we've been around people so it doesn't go to the lungs.
Exactly.
And worse.
Even just blowing your nose.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of oil pulling?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I haven't. No, what is it? Tell me.
So in the morning when you wake up, before you brush your teeth or eat anything, take like an oil, like a cooking oil, any cooking oil, and
coconut or olive.
Swish it around in your mouth until it turns from an oil into a spit. It's kind of gross. And then spit it out. And then brush your teeth, go about your day. And it like pulls all the mucus out of your system, just like you're saying, so that you're not walking around being like a mucus net, getting ready to like catch any like virus or something,
The swishing is supposed to go in and out between your teeth. So it's more than just swishing. You're kind of sieving and pumping it like the onions in the ears.
Nothing goes between my teeth, but I get used to
well, but even just, around them, that idea of pumping it, and you do it for quite a while, several minutes before it does that change. I used to try to do it, and it really is great, but
I'm going to try it.
It's another big process. Yeah. And people do it every day.
Olive oil, so I'm going to do that.
I forgot about it. It worked for me like 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, and I think it's commonly done in India, the oil swishing, and they use coconut oil primarily, but there's probably olive trees there too.
Oh, and before we leave today, I sent John a video, and it's something wise that Mr. Rogers has said, and it goes with today and the times of today. It's amazing. Mr. Rogers was amazing. And the way they did a compilation of his wise words as a mother of what we've been going through, it was just like it brought the biggest smile to my face. So I wanted to share it with you guys because it's like that the honesty and humor, but then also just how funny it is to look back and what was accepted and what was considered beautiful is now looked at as, oh my God, that's evil because of a political movement or because of a change up. And you can see how wholesome and how wonderful and how normal it is for us to have the feelings that we've been feeling, but how they're trying to demonize, something that's just been known for ages. So it's just amazing.
Should I play it?
Are you ladies ready?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I didn't share the sound. Sorry. Just one more second.
Okay. Well, I'll add one more thing to the list. I forgot.
Yes.
This is
Okay.
kind of like if you happen to, if unfortunately something does get more through your system and it goes all the way through at the point where your lungs are getting junky, Chestol, which is like a honey with a bunch of homeopathic ingredients, and that's also by the Byron.
What's it
And you
called?
can take. It's called Chestol, Chestal, and the brand is the same thing, the Byron, Bioron, and that you can take that every couple of hours, and it's like a honey, and it keeps it gets the junk out, helps get the junk out.
And I noticed in the chat, Deborah had said something about whenever you use real silver to eat with, you get just enough silver. But then I saw someone else, Beppy, I think, say that they use colloidal silver. We do as well.
Yeah.
We do have silver. I'm the typical mom who puts it away so her kids don't mess up her silver. So we never use the silver, but we have the silver. So it's ridiculous. It's like having china, but you never use it.
You got to get it out.
Messed up, but you won't get rid of it. It's like the insanity that goes in a circle. And then it makes you wonder how you're able to function on a day-to-day basis when you do silly stuff like that. But yeah, I'm probably going to have to grab out the silver and start eating with it. So I don't have to spend money on this so that I could actually purchase, things like black seed oil and the zincs and stuff that we need. Because if I can just eat off of silver.
Yeah, that's true.
Better.
I did eat colloidal silver during the same Lyme period of Lyme. So that was very.
And were you talking about bromelain? That's what Rick just put in the comments.
Bromelain.
Bromelain. Isn't that from pineapples? An enzyme or something?
Mm-hmm. Enzyme.
I haven't really given it much thought.
Is that different from what you were saying it was?
What was I saying?
I think
quercetin. You said quercetin.
Oh, yeah. I was talking about the quinine. The quinine,
okay,
which comes from the citrus peels being.
Got it.
I think there was a recipe 3 citruses, 3 cups of water, and boil for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you get is going to be the really strong quinine or whatever form it's in that you call it.
Grapefruits were the one that was most recommended.
Okay, grapefruits. Yeah. And then you put it in a jar, and then you have it, and you can add it to your tinctures or shots or whatever.
Nice. And here's the video. I think you ladies are gonna love it.
You were born a boy, you stay a boy. Girls are girls right from the start. When you're born a girl baby, you grow up to be a bigger girl and then a woman. Only girls can grow up to be the mummies. Only boys can grow up to be the daddy. Everybody's fancy, everybody's fine. Your body's fancy, and so is.
I love that.
That's great. It's so great because, regardless of
the chickens liked it too.
Yeah, it's like the chickens on the muffins. It's like there's a such thing. No matter who you are, no matter who you identify with, we have this agreed upon biological world that is simple, and we don't need to spend a lot of time on worrying about it. And that is what really separates people that are doing promoting or getting sucked into this model of lunacy versus people who are actually getting smeared in the process, you know,
It gets
which
you
you can,
addicted to horrible chemicals too. I mean, you're just stuck on them for life that cause problems that are really challenging later on. Yeah. Yeah, we're automatic. We do it without, we evolve from two little cells, that come together.
Well, I remember when I was younger and I would, watch Mr. Rogers, or I would have teachers that would discuss what made me special as a girl. And then would talk about the boys in the class, what made them special as a boy, and how empowered we felt. Like we felt so empowered to be who we were because they spent time, telling us how important it was that we are who we are. And when we go out to the playground, there was like this pride that we're girls. And there was a pride with those guys that we're boys. And when we played, we really played because we knew our identity. We knew who we were, but we were happy to be that. And it didn't really matter who do we like, who do we want to hold hands with, anything like that. That was irrelevant. It has to start with us first and being proud of who we are. And I think that's what's missing is all of the magazines, all of the superficial stuff, all of the Hollywood stuff, that you're never really the prettiest girl. You're never really going to be, there's always going to be someone better. There's always going to be a stronger guy. So then you're not proud to be who you are.
And
because there's always someone better. And so
and there are
little things
hermaphrodites.
to stick out.
There are people that are born both, and they have been
Yes.
forever. They're hermaphrodites. Yes. And rather than having to pick one or the other and become something they aren't, they can be who they are.
Yes.
And we can celebrate that. They're not like we are. They're special. They're really special.
Exactly. And it still falls within the same two genders.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's still simple, even though it's not a simple life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very
biologically simple. If you,
yes. And I think that's what's difficult is because of the blowback of what we see when we hypersexualize community, and where it's who's the best, who's the richest, who's the prettiest, who's the skinniest, who's the tallest, who's this. You get people who will never fit the best. And so they look for somewhere where they can be, and they have to create it. They have to move it over. And so instead of healing us and saying, no matter what shape you are, no matter what size you are, you're a beautiful girl. You're beautiful. No matter how tall you are, no matter how short you are, no matter what color you are, no matter how strong you are, you're a man. You're a wonderful man. And those things aren't taught. Like when you heard Mr. Rogers, he was so happy to tell us how wonderful we are. It was a celebration every time he talked about it. And I miss that. I miss women being celebrated for women and men being celebrated for being a man. I miss it so much. And you know what? I think I didn't respect it as much as I do now. And I hate that the powers that be are like, sometimes you have to lose it before you realize how much you like it. I used to hate my dad, and he would say, I hope you're not one of the ones that have to fall on your face to freaking learn your lesson. I hated those sayings, but this is where it's relevant. Now I miss it. I just expected it to always be there. I forgot, I wasn't really paying attention. Now I crave it. I miss it because there's nothing better than letting a kid be wonderfully happy about looking in the mirror and seeing how special they really are. And that's missing, and we need it back, and we need it back fast.
Yeah, we need to make it happen right now. And, and every day we can do that through just support and being open for communication. It's like we don't have to have it all figured out. That's one of the reasons why we need to be able to talk, because while we're talking, we actually do figure things out. And that's kind of a conversation for all ages, because if you think about the family table, you have all ages at the family table. They might not all be on the same level, but there's something shared that is not just generational, you know what I mean? When we put these puzzle pieces all together, I meant we have people that are winding it way back. We have, the way that we've come together now. And I just, before the year's over, I just want to say you guys are freaking amazing. I love
Thank
coming
you.
here with you
Mhm.
and hearing how, like, just how loving your hearts are, how giving to, just where the corner you sit in the world, what we bring to the table all together. And there's so many more of us that we here in this little Foursquare right now are representing, because we have researchers, we have providers, we have friends, we have angels. We have a lot of angels. We have a lot
And
of
And
angels.
chickens.
if you
Don't
look
forget the
at
chickens.
And
and if you
chickens.
look at it from this perspective, how are we all very special? All you got to take this as an example. Say you have a large family and you have your mom, your dad, you have 3 or 4 siblings, and then you go to your grandmother's house. And your grandmother had 3 or 4 kids. So all your cousins are there, and everyone decides they're going to play some board games. So the kids over here do this, the parents over here do this. What's special about that? Because each person, when they split on teams, is needed for a specific talent. Like someone may know all the Trivial Pursuit cards, right? But someone may have a really good memory as to what else is on that card. Remember when we read this? Oh, I know this one. And each person, it represents a very important part of winning that game, of being there and representing the group in a much needed fashion. And even the silly one that doesn't pay attention usually is the one making people laugh and going to get the snacks, or saying, "Oh, it's my turn again," and people are like, "Oh my god," and then making all the competition go down, like the "Oh, I know you're cheating," all that stress goes down because the goober at the table, the clown who's trying to have fun, and somehow at the last minute surprises everybody and wins the game for everyone, and they're like, "I didn't even know," and then everyone laughs again. So we're so special in all the things that we're able to contribute, but we can't be if we're trying to be the most special.
Or all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, the all the same program is just not going to work, because you're exactly right, Amber. We all have things to contribute, and that makes synergy, which makes we're more than the sum of the parts. We're more than each person individually, or each person all as their lowest common denominator. We're way more if we can take those little bits of insights and put them together. And that's when stuff can really become creative, and that's why we're creators.
And who, just because you recognize how amazing you are, or you feel it or whatever, who wants the weight of the whole entire world on one person? I mean, that's just, nobody wants that. And it's like, even these people that they parade around as like the Hollywood people, they suffer because of not being able to at many times be a real person,
Or be vulnerable.
And
or be
the
vulnerable.
weffers do too, the few at the top. I mean, look at Elon Musk. I mean, he is a troubled person, and he admits it. And he's trying to live in the milieu he's found himself in, but it's not a fun place, I think, being in charge of the super secret space program or whatever it is he's doing. It's too much.
I agree.
Well,
I usually look at each person's, and I think most of our problem as a human race is there's this, we're all supposed to be good at math, we're all supposed to be good at history, we're all supposed to, and if you don't, you don't get to go to that school, you don't get to do the thing. And so there's this undue pressure that makes us all this weird plateau, rather than enhancing what our actual talents are in which we can benefit the world. And I think that's really become a problem, because everyone's competing on a plateau rather than finding their special skill and that being enhanced.
Well, let's just remember what Whitney Houston said: "I'm every woman," because It's an archetype thing. And so again, to the role, not only the role models, but the roles. Roles. We have roles that are important. The role of a mother, the role of a father, the role of a grandparent, the role of a teacher, the role of a boss, the role of a friend. So these are things that, like, you can apply an individual amazing story, but the archetypes are this consistent thing that kind of run through the veins of, like, the family trees that go through the generations, and as we explore, like, oh wow, like, at this time they looked at things like this, or on this side of the world they really, saw God like this, or something like that, but really kind of like that
Yeah.
that strive for that archetype it's very interpersonal, but it's so interconnected to everything else that's where you get a chance to really let go and be who you are, but it's really not limited. I mean, we get to have this limited space to kind of express our individuality, but the way our energy and where it reaches, it just goes, like, around the globe and back and through each other and weaved all up.
Yeah, and it's because we're fractal antennas, and it goes all the way to infinity. And that's our connection to infinite wisdom. It's a direct line through every single cell, and every single molecule we have goes to this infinite place where we can get there if we pay attention to it, if we listen to it. It's there for us. And that's why I think, the machine learning just doesn't have that. It's missing it. It goes to either or, the two poles, and not the everything in between. Yeah. So,
well, that's how I understand, with my limited frame of reference, of what the quantum idea is to come, is that, like, I've heard it described like, instead of a light switch on and off, it's like that circle dial where you get to experience all the in-betweens between the on and off. And at any given time, it's a percentage difference between on and off.
Well, yeah. And of all the infinite choices, one emerges, and that's what becomes reality. One kind of filters through all of that infinite wisdom, all of that intelligence that's there, and becomes what is. And that's who we are, and what our world is, and what we're living with right now at each moment. It's all so incredible. It's just too incredible to comprehend. That's why it's just, we just do what we can.
And I think
that's all we can do.
I think when radical movements come about, that's what throws off the balance, is the extreme radicalness of it. And it's the dismissiveness that not everybody can play on one side of the teeter-totter on the other. Some people have to be in the center to be centered, to be beneficial to society. If you're pushed into an extreme, your reaction may be extreme, which will then cause another extreme reaction. So when people are forced into a train of thought or a movement, when they say, no, we're all going to reset, we're all going to lockstep, we're all going to be global, some people are not capable of that. That doesn't mean that, hey, these are the bad people. It means that you're forcing your predetermined ideas that are good for you, in your opinion, that you it may not pan out the way you want it to anyway. You're wanting everyone under that same auspice where you've determined, or this big group has determined, and we're foolish, or we're ignorant, or if we have questions, then we're just not getting with the program. Therefore, we're not beneficial. That's the thing that's caused our little boys not to want to be little boys, and our little girls not to be little girls. They don't get an opinion anymore. They don't get to find who they are. They get to be told what will be, way before they're even given a choice to partake in the conversation, where no one even knows who they are. Before we're even asking these kids, do you like math better? Do you like civics better? Do you like science better? What do you like better? We're telling them, here's a label, here's a label, here's a label, here's a label. If you think this, you're bad. If you think this, you're bad. We don't even know who they are as a person. So how are they going to know what to contribute or who they are? We're going to cause a detachment, a disrespect because they're not being respected. Like, it's one thing to teach them from being disobedient. It's one thing to keep them alive from running in the middle of the street and being crazy. But it's another thing to not to want to get to know who they are. And anybody who's had more than one kid, you know they're different. How you discipline them, how you talk to them. If you try to do it all the same way, it's not going to work. No, it's not going to work. And that's really the fact that we as parents have to see each child listens differently and learns differently. But the people who have this agenda are expecting everyone to feel the exact same way, like they don't have the basic knowledge that not even parents looking at their children can even run their household that way. And yet they want to run the world that way. That's the ignorance that is taken over.
Well, it might have to do with that there's more and more people without kids, and they may not know what people who have had kids and grandkids have figured out, the hard lessons of life, because you all make mistakes in getting there, and that's just how we learn. So
that I said a couple of days ago. That is a big problem, is that most of the decision makers at NATO, at the United Nations, at the WEF do not have kids, or they have one kid that they see maybe once a year.
Yeah. It's a different world.
And we don't have to talk about it right now, but a lot of them are not even the gender that they say they are.
Well, but then also you have to look at it, even if they do see their kids, you have to understand when you have a certain quota and you work a lot, and the pressure you have is to please the world, not your family. You have a maid, you have a cook, you have a nanny, you have landscapers, you have any contracting work you need, you have secretaries, you have people that are tutors for your children, you have private schools. You're very minimally involved in looking at the psychological development because you have immersed yourself within your child's life, and you've had to be the nanny. You've had to be the cook.
Mm-hmm.
You've had to watch the response. And a lot of these people, when they look at their help knows their children intimately, psychologically. They know how the child's going to respond, whether the child's going to like that vacation or not. They know more about what the child likes to do when they're at the beach versus what the child likes to do when they're doing their homework. Do they like doing math first or science first, or do they like a snack first, or do they need a nap? That when your help knows more about your offspring on your family tree than you do, you don't need to be in control of the world. You don't have a grasp over your household. First, you grasp that, and you have deep understanding of those under your roof, and not farm that out to a bunch of people that you can give a paycheck to before you tell me and my household how we need to live when you don't have a grasp over your own. That's what is tacky. That is what is elitist. That is what somebody has considered, no, I know better than you. I am better than you. But the basic of things that we all have to do as functioning adults with a family, they've already farmed out to other people. They don't have those responsibilities. And then they're looking at the world as their household.
There was a song in the 70s, top 20, that the last line of the song is, "He can't even lead his own life. I'll be damned if he'll run mine."
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we can't, and especially since, like, this is not even throwing names. Like, a lot of these people that run things at the top are literally psychopaths. And so do we want psychopaths making decisions for families? Or
well, I think it's even beyond that in a way, Tara, because I think they're giving up their power to the algorithms. They're saying it's not about, we're not making these decisions. It's the computers that know more than we do and know more than humanity does. And so they're going to have the wisdom, but
right.
No,
but
they won't.
Imagine this. I've decided that a computer, or it's my excuse, whichever, is the one in charge. And so I'm telling someone who wants to have autonomy over their own life, who has an understanding, and they don't need to be directed by AI or me or anyone else. I'm telling them, oh, you're not doing it correctly, except I'm allowing something that's not human or that's determined by a pattern or a graph or the speculation determine how I handle things, and I want to lead you. I'm not even leading my damn self. Like, what kind of insanity is? And I got to tell you how you need to be led, except I'm blaming a computer and some statistics and some changing charts all the time, depending on who's doing what, depending on money, depending on calculations, depending on what this entity says or this entity says. So it's always fluid. There's nothing consistent. But I'm going to trust that. The inconsistency, the unknowing, the utter corruptness with money exchange and favors over somebody in their own household wanting the best for their family, wanting everyone to survive, looking for answers in a normal way. I'm going to resort to this computer, and it might be an excuse, but unless I want to be made fun of because I want to rule the world, but also I'm letting the computer rule me, then I need to stop using it as an excuse, right? Because you can't tell me, let me rule your household, but I let a computer rule me. No. Like, you can't rule your own household. Oh, well, never mind. That was just an excuse. I actually just want to rule the world. No, because you're doing that wrong too. Like, stop. Like, you need to figure out your own household, and that's the issue is there's this common sense that they're lacking. They got a lot of book smart. Yay. Where's the common sense? Where's the street sense? Where's the sociological understanding of how people are going to react to you? Like, you're a nincompoop at this point. You got to stop while you're ahead. Like, you're being annoying.
Yeah, there's a basic assumption that humanity is unworthy or humanity is the problem, and we keep hearing this over and over again. In fact, my grandson wanted us to get this game to play.
It's hilarious.
It is hilarious, but it was literally created. I read a little bit about it by algorithms, and it was based on this quote from George Carlin. I'll read it to you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the secret news. All people are afraid. No one knows what they're doing. Everything is getting worse. Your money is worthless. No one is properly dressed. The system is rigged. Your house will never be completely clean. All teachers are incompetent. There are people who really dislike you. Nothing is as good as it seems. Things don't last. No one is paying attention. The country is dying. Shh. So that based on running that and using NLP and all those things, they came up with these raunchy.
They are raunchy.
I knew I hated that game.
Raunchy. And it is funny, but it's nervous laughter,
Oh, yeah. Because it's so uncomfortable. Never play it with your parents. Never.
Well,
I don't.
Never.
I tried to play it once. I would never play it again. I hated it.
And I even bought this little extra pack. Look at the size. There's this many cards in here.
Carol, do you know they have
this many in the little teeny and this were the humans. The humans wrote that, and then you put them in there, but there's no way of winning.
Carol, do you know they actually have a even more raunchier version for the people who didn't think that was raunchy enough? They actually amp it up to like even worse. And then
there's a bunch of different versions. That's why I bought this version, but it didn't make a dent. It was the teeniest.
It's this many cards.
And even some of the people who wrote these were the actual humans who worked there, that wrote this. How do we win against the algorithms? But some of those people didn't even believe it. I don't think that they had power, so they didn't make very good suggestions. Some of them were, but it didn't overpower the computer suggestions, which were 100 times more of them.
And some of those cards, you could be around just a group of friends that you grew up with and still get embarrassed.
Yeah.
Like you could just be with your spouse and be mortified. Like it's not anything that you can just proudly go, hey, let me read my card really loud. Like you're just like, this is what it says. There you go.
And to win, you have to be horrible, especially if you're playing with people younger than you. You have to.
That's how you win?
Yeah, that's because each person gets to decide who wins, and you know who those people are and what they're going to pick.
Yeah. So you got to know the people around you
Yeah.
so well. You know who's going to say the most ridiculous, crazy, raunchy thing as an answer. And then you go, I choose this one. Right. And then you actually choose the right one.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what you're supposed to choose, the raunchy answers.
Well, that reminds me of a nice game, Apples to Apples. Have you guys ever played that?
I've heard, I have that, but I can't even remember what.
So Apples to Apples is, again, like each person is the judge, and you make a decision like, what would the judge think? So you're trying to understand each person that's the judge. So it's like really good for
It's
just
great.
positive communication and family.
Yeah,
you know?
I like the movie Clue.
It's coming back.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love
Because I've
Clue.
got 2 little boys and they like action. But Clue is just enough action without it being bloody. So you got the weapon, but you don't discuss what happened to the actual body with the weapon. But you're trying to figure out who went where, who did it. Everyone's hiding their little piece of paper. They're deducting who's what. And then we love it. That's one of our favorites. But Bananagrams, Scrabble.
Yeah, that's a good one. I
so
like
many
that.
fun ones.
Well, I think mystery and whodunit is a good question to end with, because that is what we're trying to figure out. You know, how did we get here? Who done it? And we're getting closer and closer every time we get together. So
back in November, or I think it was October of 2020, George and Aaron had a Monopoly board made up.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
Well, we need to do the same thing with Clue, and have, it was Callahan and the Yangtze River with the Bible.
Actually, it's like the store Five Below. They sell board games that have nothing on them, so you create your own, and then you just fill it in. So you can buy like 3 of them and then fill them in different ways and do it like Clue. And it would be, we could assign one person to come up with the names of the person, someone else to come up with the weapons, someone else to come up with the rooms. So we'd have lab, we would have a wet market, we would have all these different rooms, and then different tools, a refrigerator for the refrigerator.
Who designed Webopoly? Was that Aaron?
I think it was pretty much
that
Aaron.
was Aaron. He did that while we were in Maryland. He busted that out.
Well, it was already all put together by the time he brought it up, but somebody put a lot of effort into that. It was great.
Yeah,
thank you,
so
Aaron.
he probably came up with that like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to say too that speaking of Foursquare and speaking of human over computer, that I want to dedicate this New Year's to our Foursquare of George Webb, John O'Laughlin, Aaron Adler, and Andy Dubala, because without them, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. And I know a lot of people feel that way. And I think they represent the whole of us in a really good way, where they provided changes for us to reach the next level altogether. So love you guys and love all the rest of you. Deborah, thanks for all the delicious food. And Amber, I can't wait to try yours someday coming up soon. But anyways, anything that anybody has in their heart for this transition to the new year, be blessed. May God bless you and your families. Stay healthy. Try to communicate the best you can. I say a million times, every gazillion time, I just always resort to prayer if I can't get through, because that's the easiest way to reach, all the heavens and the earth all at the same time. And, may everyone...
advice. I needed that advice.
That's a lovely prayer, a nice way to end things. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. It's been a great year, and let's make next year even better.
Amen to that.
Have a great New Year, everybody.
You too, everybody. And see you tomorrow at the George Webb Watch Party.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Love yous.